Are you thinking about buying a home in the near future, but you're looking for some ways that you can buy with zero down, no money out of pocket? Well, in today's video, I'm talking about just that, so stay tuned. Hey everyone, I'm Bryce Greenleaf. I'm a local real estate agent here in the greater Seattle area. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my future videos. I love making videos all about moving to the Seattle area, living in this area, and the local real estate, both buying and selling real estate. So in this case, in this video, helping out you home buyers by showing you some different options that you have with buying a home with zero down. I love helping out buyers and sellers coming to this area and just answering any questions in general about the Seattle area. So feel free to reach out to me anytime. My contact info is here on the screen. I'd be more than happy to answer any of the questions that you've got and kind of guide you through that process of whether you're moving here or looking to do something with real estate. But without further ado, let's look into your options for buying a home with no money out of pocket. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is your down payment. That's the most popular thing, a no money down loan, zero down home buying. You've probably seen some other videos and articles and whatnot on it in the past. That's the biggest aspect to this no money down, buying a home for no money down. So there's really three different options that you can explore in order to get your mortgage a no down mortgage. So the first one we're going to talk about is a USDA home loan. Now this is through the US Department of Agriculture, and they provide rural home loans for people looking to move a little bit further outside than the large metropolitan areas. Now this completely depends at where you're at, depending on which areas are going to qualify. There's a great site here. You can go to the USDA eligibility map and it'll show you what areas will qualify and what areas won't qualify. For those of you in the Seattle area here, you can see that as you're further on west, closer to I-5, you're not going to qualify for anything in there. All those really popular areas, those large metropolitan areas, dense cities, dense populations. But a good general rule of thumb, especially if you're kind of further up north in the Snohomish County area, is east of Highway 9, most of that is going to qualify for USDA home buying. So it's definitely a good option to look into that a lot of people don't know about. So if you're looking in places like Lake Stevens, the outskirts of Snohomish, maybe Monroe, this might be a good option for you to get that zero down home loan. Now, as you can see, as you go down south, there are some options as well. You've got to go a little bit further east, like Falls City and North Bend and whatnot. But there are definitely some options with USDA. Now, there is an income limit on who can qualify for a USDA home loan, and this depends on a couple of factors. So on this same website with the eligibility map, you can go to the calculator and see if you would qualify for a USDA home loan. It's going to take into account the number of people in your household and your annual income. So check that out if you're thinking about buying a home zero down, you think you might be in some of these eligible areas. And on this map as well, I didn't mention that you can type in a specific address, so you don't have to try and figure out from the shaded areas exactly where that house is. You can just type in the specific address and it'll tell you if it's eligible or not. All right, now the second way that you can buy a home zero down is through a VA home loan. Now, a lot of you might not qualify for this because you're not veterans, but if you are a veteran, this is a fantastic loan for you to use. Unlike USDA, you can use this anywhere that you're looking to buy a home. Now, there are maximum limits that you can buy, maximum home prices that you can buy, and that's per the county that you're in. So for those of you in the Seattle area, for King and Snohomish County, the maximum amount you can buy with a VA loan is $776,000, and the other counties in Washington State, the maximum you're going to be is about $548,000. Now, this doesn't mean that you qualify for $548,000 or $776,000. That just means that's the max you can go. You're gonna have to qualify for a mortgage based on your income, your credit score, your debts, all that kind of stuff. So that's just a max that you can't go over, but you got to get with a lender to see what you might actually qualify for with that VA home loan. All right, and option number 3, which is going to be the most flexible option, it's going to apply to the most people, and that's called down payment assistance. So here in Washington State, we've got something called the Washington State Housing and Finance Commission program, and they provide down payment assistance for buyers in this area. Now, how this is going to work is you're going to qualify for a certain loan up front. So let's say you're going to qualify for a 3.5% down FHA home loan, which is a very popular first-time buyer home loan. Not just first-time home buyer, but any buyers are able to use this loan. But a very popular program. And on top of this 3.5% down program, you're gonna apply for the down payment assistance program with Washington State Housing and Finance Commission. And what this will do, assuming you're approved, it will lend you up to 4% towards a down payment. So it'll cover that entire 3.5% down payment you have to come up with. Now, this isn't a grant, so it's not a free down payment, but it is in the form of a silent second mortgage. So really that mortgage is based on a 3.5% down payment, but that 3.5% that that you got loaned to you from Washington State Housing and Finance Commission will have to be paid back at some point. Typically, if you go to refinance your home down the road or you go to sell your home, you're gonna pay that back through the equity that you gained in that home. Now, this is also interest-free, so it's not gonna keep growing. It's just gonna stay the same amount and you'll have to pay it back once you get to that point of refinancing or selling. But this is a very, very popular program. A lot of people are using it right now, especially first-time home buyers, especially in this area, the King and Snohomish County areas, because real estate is so expensive here. It's oftentimes hard to come up with 3.5% out of pocket to put towards a down payment. So as of right now, in order to qualify for this program, you have to make less than $145,000 a year. That's combined income. So if you're a single person, then that's just your income. But if you and your spouse are trying to qualify, then that's your combined income has to be less than $145,000. And in terms of your credit score, traditionally you need at least a 620 credit score. Now, some lenders are tightening up a little bit on those restrictions and they're requiring a 640 score. So try and shoot for at least a 640 score if this is a program that you're gonna be interested in. And it can definitely provide some flexibility to and give you that no money down buying option. Now, after down payments, down payments are your biggest source of fees out of pocket, but after that, we also have what's called closing costs. You might not know about that. So you also have to consider the closing costs because that's another big fee you're gonna have to pay even if you get a zero down home buying program like one of the three I just mentioned. So when you go to buy a home, you have to pay what's called closing costs. Usually it's gonna be right around 2 to 2.5% of your purchase price. So if you were buying a $500,000 house, your closing costs might be in the ballpark of $8,000 to $10,000 is typically what my clients are paying right now. So these closing costs cover things like lender fees, title and escrow fees, prorated property taxes, homeowners insurance premiums, and a lot of other prorated dues, utilities, things like that. But it is possible to have the seller to actually pay for these for you so you don't have to come up with anything out of pocket to pay these. So what you do when you put in an offer, you request that the seller actually pay those closing costs for you. Now, the way the seller is gonna look at this is in terms of the net total offer. So if you were offering $500,000 on a house and you ask the seller to pay $10,000 of your closing costs, the net offer to that seller is really $490,000. But your mortgage is based on that $500,000. So really you're wrapping that $10,000 in closing costs onto your mortgage. Now, one thing to be aware of in competitive markets, this can be a little bit more difficult to do just because there are gonna be multiple offers on most homes and there are gonna be many buyers that aren't requesting the sellers pay for their closing costs. So that's gonna immediately put you in a weaker position than those other offers, but it's definitely still possible. I've helped many people get into a home and get the seller to pay for 100% of their closing costs. And you can also just ask that the seller pay a smaller percentage of your closing costs. So you can ask that they pay half of them or a quarter of them. Whatever you decide to do, it's all negotiable in order to get some help out on those closing costs. Now, those are your two biggest fees for sure, down payments and closing costs. There are some other fees that are gonna factor in. One of them is your appraisal fee. Sometimes that's wrapped within your closing costs, but oftentimes it's due up front, which is in this area gonna be probably about $750, $800. So that's something to consider. We can also talk with the lender about that specifically when that payment would be due. Other than that, you're just gonna have an inspection fee. Inspections are not required to buy a home. Unless you're doing a down payment assistance program, then they are required. Otherwise, they're not required to buy a home, but I highly recommend that you get an inspection when you buy a home. I do not think it's a good idea to be buying a home that you really know nothing about, of what's in the attic, what's in the crawl space, what might be wrong with that home. But an inspection, it just depends on the size of the house. You could be spending anywhere from $350 to $600. Most of my clients for 3 to 4 bedroom homes in this area are averaging right around $400 for their inspection. So that's something you have to take into consideration. Now, there's one more thing that you need to be aware of when buying a home that's gonna factor into these out-of-pocket expenses. And it's not necessarily an expense, but it is a deposit you have to put down on the house. So when you put an offer on a house, you have to put a deposit down to show that seller that you're making a good faith effort to actually buy their home. So usually this earnest money deposit is about 1% of the purchase price. Now, there's no set standard rate. This is completely negotiable, but sellers expect that you put down at least 1%. So if you try to put down something way under that and somebody else is putting down 1 to 2% for their earnest money, your offer is going to be a lot weaker than that individual. So it's definitely something that you need to factor in. You need to have money available for it. I'd say at least have 1% available for your earnest money deposit. So if you're planning to buy a $500,000 house, try to have at least $5,000 available to put down for that deposit. Now, it is a deposit, so it's only gonna be held through the length of our closing process, which is usually 30 days. So that'll be deposited. Once we get to 30 days later, if you're on a zero down home buying program and the seller is paying for all of your closing costs, that earnest money deposit, let's say the $5,000 in this case, is gonna get refunded to you afterward. It's gonna be wired back into your bank account, or they're gonna cut you a check to refund you for that. So like I said, it's not a fee, but it is money that you need to have available when you're buying a home, or it's gonna be really tough to compete with other offers. All right, you guys, so this rounds out all the ways that you can buy a home for zero down out of pocket. So like I said, definitely reach out to me if you've got any questions on the subject, or if you've got other subjects you want me to cover, make videos on, feel free to reach out to me directly, or you can just comment below and I'd be more than happy to address those for you. My info is here on the screen. Like I said, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of my future videos, and hit that thumbs up button. That really helps me out with more people seeing this video. But thanks for watching this one, and I'll plan on seeing you on the next one.